finally it's time to do some work on the M3. It's gonna be something which I was delaying for quite a while. The car does have 141,000 miles and it does have the original clutch. So finally it went out, and you can see I have a bunch of parts laying around. A new flywheel. I bought a Look flywheel. It's exactly the same one as the genuine one, just without the logo. This is a dual flywheel. This is the difference between the Eclipses come with a single flywheel. The BMWs, they always come with a dual, most of the time. I think pretty much all of them, if I'm not mistaken. And so what I have here, the clutch, it's a south bend clutch. I have some nice sticker. This is actually a stage 2 clutch, which is kind of straight with a little bit of performance. So it should be pretty close to the stock one, maybe a little bit grippier. And you can see actually this is Look, so I'm guessing they remanufactured something here with better springs here. I'm guessing, I don't know. The clamping force should be a little bit more, because this clutch is rated for 340 pounds torque, foot-pounds of torque, so should be better. It does come with throwout bearing, release bearing, however you want to call it, but I ended up buying a genuine one, and it turned out that actually they are the same. The only difference is that this one does have a BMW stamps here. You see BMW on the top, and this one, it doesn't have the BMW stamps, but you can see that actually it's grinded out, and you can see on the end 582, and you can see that this one, oh shit, just a second, and you can see this one, it's ending 582. So that's the only difference. And there is the logo. There's one more logo here, but this is sucks, however you want to call it. I call it sucks, but it's sucks, the brand. So this is the same brand, you can see sucks, whatever. So I kind of bought something which I don't need. This one costs about $80-90, so I could have saved this money. Anyway, so what else I bought? It's right over here, a new clutch fork. This is pretty cheap, I think it's $30-40. I also bought some new clutch release bearing guide tube. This is for the transmission. New pivot bearing, this needs to be replaced. I also bought a stainless steel clutch fork pivot. This is from E31 BMW, so it's a factory one. Because the e46 M3 does come with plastic pivot, so this one should be a lot better. I also bought new pressure plate bolts. And what else? A new crankshaft seal, the rear crankshaft seal with a gasket. Actually, right over here, there are a bunch of parts. You can see this is the rear main crank kit, which include few things, flywheel bolts, all this. I bought a few more other things from a different place, so not everything is here. And I bought some bunch of bolts, new flywheel bolts, which is something not bad to do, because this way I won't apply any thread sealant to the old bolts. I think you can reuse the old one, but I bought a new one, they're cheap. And some other bolts, you can see bolts and nuts. So basically most of them I won't use them, I guess, but I bought them just in case to have them, you know. It's not a bad thing to have. I think this is for the guibo, because you do need to replace not the bolts but the nuts. but I bought them both anyway. And what else? For the drive shaft, this is for the rear of the drive shaft. You can see these bolts usually need to be replaced. I'm going to quickly run you down through all the parts I bought. This way you can see all the part numbers. The first few are still not here, but you kind of need them. Manual transmission input shaft seal. This is good to have since you don't know if your transmission is leaking. You're gonna find out this when you remove your release bearing guiding tube. The next one is the exhaust flange gasket. You don't need this one. I bought it for a different reason. The exhaust seal ring, you don't need these two because you're gonna take off your exhaust. You can get away without replacing them, but they're cheap, so why not buy them? And next, let me skip this, is your clutch release bearing, which is good to have if you don't have it in the clutch kit, and especially if it's not the same brand, the same company make them, you know, the Sachs company make them for the BMW. So if it's not the same brand, just buy the genuine one, otherwise you may run into the troubles later. So the next thing, clutch release arm spring. You can see the part numbers are right here on the bottom. And the dual mass flywheel, this is the part number for it, $511, so it's pretty expensive. This is before tax actually. And you can find it a little bit cheaper, maybe $400, $350. I seen it for $350, but you gotta get lucky, and it's kind of not sure if it's gonna arrive. So I bought it from here. You have the lifetime warranty, which is kind of good. The pressure plate bolt package, which is this one. I bought a bunch of them. And steel clutch fork pivot. The clutch release bearing guiding tube. This is something which you need to buy. It's good to buy. You can get away without buying, but it's not a bad thing to buy. You don't want to do the clutch job twice. And the silicone, you don't need it, but you can buy something from the local part store, but I just bought it since I want to try it out. All these parts are from FCP Euro, and now I'm going to switch to ECS tuning since I bought them from different places. This way they're gonna arrive quicker. And this is the crankshaft seal kit, the part number for it, the pivot bearing, the flywheel bolt, the clutch fork lever, and this is for the guibo, the bolts for the guibo, and the nuts for the guibo. You don't need to replace the nuts for sure. I mean, it's kind of recommended, you can reuse them, but it's a good thing to do. And this is for the rear of the drive shaft, the truck's bolt. You can get away without replacing them, but I bought them. I might replace them, I might not, I will see. And now let's go to the clutch. And this is the clutch kit which I bought, stage 2. You can see the part number, and after tax $650, so it's not cheap, but kind of normal for performance clutch. Kind of performance, I mean, whatever. I also end up buying the output shaft seal for the transmission and the shift rod seal. I'm also going to replace my transmission fluid. That's why I bought red line ATF. I know that this is automatic transmission fluid, but apparently it's good for our manual transmissions. And if you want to make your life easier when you're replacing your transmission fluid, just buy this pump. It's pretty cheap. Let's get the job done. The good thing is I have a lift, so it's gonna be a lot easier for me. This is all the way up. Let's see what is going on now here. I already checked and saw that I have a power steering leak. The leak is coming up from the top, so I'm guessing some of the lines are messed up, but I'll figure out this later. So the first thing which you need to do, you remove the belly pan, then move to the reinforcement plate, which is this one. Then keep going. You have one more plastic plate. This is for the transmission. You need to take it off, and then you have two more plates. One of those plates is supporting the exhaust, and the other one is basically bracing the chassis. You need to take them off. They are held by 4 bolts. Pretty simple. For the rear one, you just need to take it off and leave it. It's gonna hang on the exhaust. So on the back, you have one more thing, is the V-brace, which is covered by 3 bolts, one on this side, one on the other side, and one on the middle. Basically, this is the first step. I do have some nasty leak from the transmission. I think it's coming from the guiding tube. Behind the guiding tube there is a seal, the one I told you about. Hopefully it's from over there. And now let's move to the second step, which is removing the exhaust. So basically you need to remove these 2 bolts, 4 actually, on both sides. Take them off and then go to the back. The muffler, you do need to take off the exhaust hanger. You can see that it's held by 2 nuts, one on the left side and one on the right one. So just take off these 2 nuts, and on the other side you have 2 more hangers. Take off the nuts and the muffler will drop down. Since my setup is aftermarket one, I think I'm going to just remove these 2 nuts. But if I remember correctly, when the muffler was OEM one, I took off the hangers. And this is my sketchy setup. It can be done a lot better, but I like to live dangerously, especially the chair. You can see how much this thing is moving. We'll see what's gonna happen. And you can see that it's going down, but I need to call someone to help me out because I don't want to mess up my muffler. It's too sketchy. I mean, I'm pretty sure I can do it, but I need to reinforce this area, make it a little bit better. The exhaust system is out of the way, and now I need to take off this bracket. Now we need to take off the heat shield. It's held by a few screws, 2 here, 1 over here, and I think 2 on the back. It's pretty simple. We need to take off this shield also, and then the clutch slave cylinder need to be taken off. It's held by 2 nuts, and we have 2 plug connectors which we need to disconnect. This is the one of them, and the other one is right over there. We also need to disconnect this one. The transmission is supported from the bottom, and the next move is to take off the transmission brace. It's held by 4 bolts, and we are also going to take off the mounts. They're held by 2 nuts here, and they have 2 nuts on the top. Getting pretty close to taking off the transmission, but first we need to take off the drive shaft. It's held by 3 bolts and nuts here to the guivel. I'm thinking only to take off these 3 bolts and nuts, and if I'm not mistaken, I will be able to take it off. I don't want to remove all 6 of them because I will need to use a new nuts. And then we need to take off the center support bearing, which is held by 2 nuts. And when we go to the back, we have 6 Torx bolts which need to be taken off, and the drive shaft will come off. Up next is to remove the shifting components. This is one of my least favorite things to do. First we're gonna remove the shifting lever, this part right here. Mine is aftermarket one, but it doesn't matter, OEM or aftermarket one, it's still gonna be pain in the ass. You have to pop off this clip, and then you have one more clip on the other side. This clip here, but it's on the right side, but it's pretty much, this is the other end of the lever. And after this you're gonna pop off this bushing with a screwdriver. You're just gonna put the screwdriver here, flat screwdriver, and pop off the bushing. And then on the other side of this there is another clip, which is the most difficult one to take off. It's right over there. You need to pop it off. The one which I'm touching with my finger, I don't know if you can see it, but basically you need to pop it off, and you'll be able to take off all these components. Next we're gonna start with the bell housing bolts. But first I'm going to start with a small 10mm bolt, which is kind of hidden. It's right over there. You can see that I'm using an extension and a 90 to be able to get loose this bolt. I'm starting with this one because after this I'm planning to take off the support of the transmission and then remove the rest of the bell housing bolts. And now for the rest of the Torx bolts, it's gonna be a nightmare because this transmission has never been out. I already broke my extension, you can see up there, not good. I'm hoping that it's because my extension is pretty cheap. This one is from Harbor Freight. The angle was kind of weird. This is Pittsburgh, so hopefully with a better quality extension I will be able to break it loose. But the biggest problem is when you have to use a longer extension for the bolts which are up top. It's gonna be really difficult to take them off, to get them loose, because with a longer extension you cannot apply as much force as a short extension, and that's gonna be a problem. I was able to break loose the E14 bolt up there. This E14 is pretty much out. I just broke loose this E14, which is up there. I don't know if the camera is gonna focus this, but there is one E14 over there. And we have one more E14 which is on the top, and we are done without the big bolts. So we have 4 E14 bolts, and now we're moving down to the E12 bolts, which are only 2. The one for the starter, it's right over there. There are 2 of them. And now the only thing left is the 3 E10 Torx bolts, and we can take off the transmission finally. These are all of the bell housing bolts. Now I just need to pull off the transmission. It's supported. Let's see if this is gonna work out. I hope that I didn't miss anything, but we'll find out pretty soon. Well, finally I took off the transmission. It was quite a fight, and it turned out that I did some damage here. You can see that the pressure plate is pretty messed up. Something is going on here, and the bad thing is I fucked up the transmission basically. I mean, it's alright, but just check what's going on here. This thing is broken, this one, and I don't know from where is this. Look like it's one of these pins maybe. I don't see where it should go. Anyway, I'll find out tomorrow. Every time when I was slowing down or hard braking, I was hearing this kind of a noise, and I was thinking it's something from the brakes, but it turned out that everything is coming from the transmission, because this thing is broken, this one is broken for some reason. I guess the clutch fell completely, and that's why. Did some quick cleaning of the transmission, and some of these parts, they look a lot better now. I mean, this one, it's really difficult to come off, but it's pretty clean, so it's enough. And the transmission look like brand new, but I have a problem with this transmission. The damage is even worse than I was thinking. Let me flip the transmission. So here is the inside of the transmission, and I have a damage over here. The bell housing is cracked. Let me flip the transmission a little bit more. Right over here, the transmission is cracked. I need to weld this piece most likely. Probably it's gonna be fine like this, but you can see how much damage. I think the flywheel did this damage. I still haven't taken out the clutch, but I think the flywheel came apart, and that's why. How this, I mean, not good. I mean, don't ride your clutch for too long, or you're gonna regret it like me. I end up drilling a few holes to stop the crack, and you can see that there are actually 3 holes, and that's because from outside the case is cracked from here to right over here. But let me show you a better angle so you can see that the crack is not that small, so it does need to be repaired. I mean, it's a good thing to be repaired. Probably it's gonna be good like this, but I don't want to take any chances. So when we go from inside, it's a different story. Right over here the crack starts from here and it does end up right here on the top, so it's a little bit different. That's why I end up drilling 3 holes. I'm going to use some carbide burrs to make a deep groove. I'm gonna make a deep groove here. This way I can add some more material when I TIG weld the inside and the outside of the case. But let's see how it's going to turn out, because I'm not really good with TIG welding. This is how it turned out. Now I'm going to TIG weld it and then make a groove here and TIG weld the outside. And this is how it turned out from inside. At first I did a bit, I laid a bit, but then I decided maybe it's better just to heat it up and melt it. This way we'll make a better connection. I don't know. I'm not sure about this, but it looked like it's fixed. We'll see if it's gonna hold up. It should hold up. Now we're gonna do the outside and we'll see how it's gonna turn out. And this is how it turned out from outside. Not pretty, but it should hold. And I end up adding a little bit more material here from inside, a little bit more material just in case. I don't think it's gonna be on the way of the clutch and the flywheel. Should be fine. And that's it. Should hold up. Kinda ugly, but it will do the job. I end up grinding down the inside weld. Right now it's pretty much flush, because I saw that there is some machining work done here and right over here on the top, which means that the clearance for the pressure plate and the flywheel, it's pretty tight, and I decided to grind down the weld. This way I won't run in any troubles later. But I also found out that I have one more crack right over here. I already drilled 2 holes and I'm going to patch it real quick and call it a day. I mean, it's not a big crack, it was really small one, but I have the TIG weld and I bought a new argon barrel because I ran out the last time from argon, and why not just weld it. Took off the clutch and the flywheel, and for my surprise the clutch doesn't look bad. You can see actually it does have plenty of life left, and I'm kinda curious why it was sleeping. Most likely because the pressure plate is kinda overheated and the flywheel surfaced. Probably that's why. I was expecting this thing to be destroyed. Alright, and here is the down pin, which it broke the bell housing of the transmission, and it came off from right over here. It's supposed to be here, but it left the chat and did so much damage. Finally, I'm done with the welding. It turned out alright, and I'm ready to move to the next step, which is replacing all the seals. So here we have the input shaft seal, the output shaft seal, and the shifter rod seal. First we're gonna start with the rod seal for the shifter, which is this small seal here. I'm gonna use this tool to take her off. At least I'm gonna try to take her off with this tool. I bought this seal puller a long time ago and I want to test it out, and I think it's gonna do a good job since it does fit here perfectly fine, and I think it's gonna do the trick. Previously I have taken off this kind of seal for the e46 and I just used a flat screwdriver. I stick the screwdriver here and pulled off the seal, but it was a lot of struggle, and I think with these two it's gonna be a lot easier. So let's find out and see. Now let's see if this tool is gonna work. Alright, it was really easy taking off this seal with a tool. I highly recommend this tool. I mean, otherwise it's gonna be a little bit of struggle. I mean, you can take it off without the tool, but you saw how easy it was to take off the seal with this tool. And you're not risking to do any damage to the walls on the side because you don't want to scratch. Put a little bit of transmission oil on the seal and then just insert the seal. Try to adjust the seal as much as you can with your fingers. Push the rod like this and then grab yourself 60mm socket. Your first tap need to be a little bit harder to align the seal, and after this just gently tap the seal until it's completely flush here. The correct socket for the shifter rod is actually 15. I just end up tapping down the seal a little bit more, and now it does sit a lot better. It doesn't have to be flush, I mean it have to be a little bit deeper. Now we are moving to the input shaft seal, but the problem is I cannot fit this tool. I end up drilling hole right over here, and now I'm going to use a screw and try to take off the seal. I mean, I'm going to try to deform the seal because you'll see what's gonna happen. You see, it's gonna get loose, the seal. Maybe. We'll see. And just be careful not to scratch the surface. But I think it's moving now. But basically that's the idea. Just drill a hole here, I mean, keep trying until you take off the seal. I think it's already moving a little bit, and you see what I did. There's a little bit of damage here. Anyway, that's outside, not a big deal, but you gotta be careful. After a lot of struggling, I was able to pull off the seal. I ended up drilling 2 more holes with a drill bit, then I'm using my screw. You see how much I deformed the seal to be able to pull her off. And there's a little bit left, like the spring is here. Really difficult to take off this seal, but I guess the best way is just drilling holes, which is something I don't like doing, but just drill holes with a drill bit and then put a screw and try to take it off, deform the seal. This way it will lose the tension and eventually you will be able to pull her off. To press in the input shaft seal, I bought 1.5 PVC pipe from Home Depot with 2 caps, 1.5 inch caps, and as you can see, I drilled one of the caps. This way I can insert the pipe like this, and I will be able to press in the seal. And this is pretty much the perfect size. You can see how it does fit. So we'll see how it's gonna work out, but I think it will do the job. And like always, put a little bit of transmission oil on the seal. I think this seal is going to be a lot easier to be pressed in. You still have to be careful when you're pressing in the seal, because right now my seal is going a little bit sideways, but you gotta play around and check more often. This way the seal won't go sideways, otherwise when it goes sideways you can mess up the seal really bad. The cap is not that solid, so when you hit it on the middle it's not working out really good, so that's why you gotta go like this, and just keep checking and see how the seal is going. And let's say if you need to hit it a little bit here more, just hit it like this. I mean, you don't need the cap actually, but I had to try to see how it's gonna work out, because it's bouncing off, like, I mean, it's not solid, and it's not good like this. The tool did a great job. You can see that the seal is pretty much on the exactly same spot as the old one. This shiny thing is where the old seal was riding. So basically it's pretty close. If not the same, it's pretty close. And with this tool there is no damage to the seal, which is very important. Comparing the method with the socket for the shifter rod, I did a little bit of damage here on the top. I mean, it's not big of a deal, but it could be avoided maybe with a PVC pipe the same size, or maybe different kind of socket. Moving to the output shaft seal, get loose the nut. I use some big impact gun. It's gonna be a lot easier. After this, pop off the flange, and then you'll see the output shaft seal. The way I'm taking off the output shaft seal is basically by punching the seal all around with a flat screwdriver. This way I'm deforming the seal. And after this I'm just laying down the hammer like this and using the flat screwdriver to pop off the seal, just like this. It's already going out, so I just need to push a little bit more and it's gonna be out. To press in the seal, I used whatever I found, basically a socket and a piece of pipe. This is actually from a ball joint service kit. It's a little bit too small to be on the safe side, but it did the trick. You can see that you need a little bit bigger pipe. I'm pretty sure you can find a plastic pipe the same size, but this seal is not difficult to do, so it wasn't a big deal. I was just moving the seal like this to tap on it, but I was tapping very gently, basically like this, and tapping on top of it. And you can see there is no damage to the seal. This seal went really smooth. That's how it's supposed to be, and it's pretty much flush. You gotta press her in until it's bottom out, and that's it. The flange is on, and first we need to torque down the nut to 240 foot-pounds of torque. This way we're gonna set up the pre-weld for the bearing. After this we're gonna lose the nut and torque it down to 89 foot-pounds of torque. To hold the flange I'm using a bolt and a wrench and the ear from the transmission case, which is not the correct way of doing this, but I'm taking a gamble here. I have done it before and I know it won't break, but there is a possibility for this ear to break and it's gonna be really bad. But otherwise you gotta get some piece of metal, drill 2 holes and hold it. This way the flange won't spin. You have to use 5/18 Loctite for the sealing surface. I guess this is the sealing surface. I did put some inside, I don't know if this is the right way, but anyway, it won't hurt. And for the thread, you gotta use 243 Loctite. And now we are ready to torque down the nut. I did put a lot. Hopefully I won't have to take it off anytime soon at least. And now we need to torque it down to 89 foot-pounds of torque. And we are all done. I did put a lot of thread lock. I gotta clean it up a little bit. The next thing on the list is the pivot bearing, and you need a bolt, a nut, and a flat screwdriver. It's pretty simple, let me show you. So basically you're gonna insert the bolt and nut just like this, and with your other hand you grab the flat screwdriver. I'm going to press the nut so it won't spin, and after this grab yourself a wrench and hold the screwdriver with the one hand and rotate the wrench with the other, and your pivot bearing will start coming out. Pretty simple trick. And here is the old pivot bearing. You can hear that it's pretty worn out. The next thing which is good to be done is clean out these threads on the crankshaft, and I'm using a chaser set to do this. This is the one which I bought, and the size is M12 times 1.5, and just go throughout the holes, clean them real good. You can spray them with a brake cleaner and you should be good to go. For the rear main seal we have 4 10mm bolts on the top, 2 10mm on the bottom, and 2 13mm right over here. So basically once we take off all these bolts, we're gonna get ourselves a pray bar. Just leave this here. We're gonna get a pray bar and just pop off the seal like this. And it's out. And we also do have a gasket here which we need to take off and replace. To take off the old seal, we're gonna use a flat screwdriver and a hammer, pretty basic tools. But before that, it's not a bad idea to measure the depth of the seal. I'm using rod and a tape. This way I know how deep I need to insert the new seal. We're gonna use the old oil stain for reference, but let's say something goes wrong and I wipe down the old oil and I don't know how deep I need to insert the new seal. I have this. I don't have the tool, that's why you need to do this. But if you do have the tool, I mean, you don't need to do that. But the tool is maybe, I think it's $100, something like this, which is not cheap for a seal which you can tap in with a lute. Now install the new seal dry, and then use your old one on top just like this, and you can use a wooden block and tap on it just like this, like this. I can't find my other hammer, that's why I'm using this one, but it's better to use a solid one. Alright, just a little bit more. And it's all done. I end up putting a little bit of sealant right here on the edges. And now I'm going to install the gasket. There we go. And I'm going to put a little bit of sealant here on the bottom, and we are ready to install the seal back. I spread it. It's not that much as you think. You can get away without putting any sealant here, but it's better safe than sorry, because I don't want to come back and fix the leak. And now we just need to slide it in. Tap it in gently. All the 10mm bolts are torqued down to 10 Newton meters, and the 13mm ones are 23 Newton meters. We are moving to the pivot bearing. You're gonna use 24mm socket to tap in the pivot bearing. You can see that it does fit perfect, but not every 24mm socket does fit here, so you gotta test it out. For example, this one doesn't want to fit. It's 24mm, the long version, but it's not working comparing to this one, which it does fit perfectly. So you're just gonna tap it in, and it's pretty simple. And it's all in. Let's keep moving forward. The next thing we gotta do is put the backing plate on. Don't forget this, because once you put the flywheel on, you cannot install the backing plate. And then clean up your new flywheel with some brake cleaner, really good, and just install the new flywheel. And you can see there is a dowel here, this thing, and on the back of this flywheel you have the same thing. It's this one right over here, and just rotate the flywheel until it matches with the dowel. And if you're wondering which exactly is your dowel hole, is this one. You see this here, it's the mark to tell you that this is the hole with the dowel. I'm using brand new flywheel bolts, and you can see they do come with a pre-applied thread sealant, thread lock, whatever, and you just need to put them on and torque them down to 105 Newton meters. Cross pattern, just like this. To torque down the flywheel, I don't have a special tool, but I'm gonna show you a trick. This is an old bolt from e46, and you can see how it's not threaded on the back, but it does fit here perfectly fine. So basically I put the bolt here, and then I'm gonna use my pray bar to hold the flywheel just like this, you see, and this way I'm able to hold down the flywheel and torque down the bolts. Now ready to install the clutch disc. It does go only one way. If I flip it the other way, it won't fit. I mean, it will fit, but it won't be flush with the flywheel, so you cannot get it wrong. I mean, you can if you're that crazy, but it's basically impossible. The pressure plate, you have to align it with this white dot with the blue one on the top. I don't know how true is this, but mine is not aligning perfectly, but it does align with the sticker. So I don't know how true is this, but if you're using the genuine parts, I guess maybe it will align perfectly fine. My pressure plate bolts are grade 10.9, which means I need to torque them down to 34 Newton meters. You gotta torque them down cross pattern. Now to take off this metal piece which is holding the pressure plate from clamping down, I'm just going to use a flat screwdriver. I'm going to top it off from right over here. And we're done with this part. These are the wasp parts which I need to put on, and the transmission will be ready to be back in service. But first let me show you the condition of the old parts. Here is the old release bearing guiding tube. You can see that it took a lot of damage from the release bearing. Here on the top it's pretty worn out. I don't know how normal is this. Right here on the bottom it does look good. I'm not quite sure which was top and which was bottom, but I think this one was the top one. And the release bearing is pretty much out of service. The fork, there is a little bit of wear, not too much, nothing crazy. And the plastic pivot, it does look pretty good actually for the mileage. I have seen a lot worse than this one. I'm going to replace it with this stainless steel pivot. First is the clutch pivot. We're gonna use 40mm socket to tap it in. Just put it on and gently tap on it. Actually, for the stainless steel version pivot, you do need a solid hammer and hit it a little bit harder, otherwise it won't go in all the way. And the way you're gonna check if it's all the way in, if you don't see it, just use a razor blade and you can see there's no gap between the pivot and the case, the backing of the case here. Next, the release bearing guiding tube, and the 10mm bolts are getting torqued down to 10 Newton meters. I end up putting a little bit of blue Loctite. I'm not sure if you're required to put any Loctite on those bolts, but I did, since I saw that when I took them out there was some kind of a Loctite on them, and I couldn't find any information if you're supposed to put anything on them, but I just did. This way I'm gonna be on the safe side, and the blue Loctite is not that strong, so it's not a big of a deal. There is a little bit of input shaft play, but I think and I hope that it is in the limits, nothing too crazy. You should have some play as far as I know. I just don't know how much is the acceptable. The release arm spring. Next is the fork. We need to put a little bit of grease here. I'm using urea grease from Honda. It's green on cover. We just need to put a little bit, not too much, right over here. And on the other end, a little bit more. Don't go out crazy. And you gotta put a little bit very gently on the guiding tube. Don't put a lot, because if this go into the clutch disc, your coach is gonna start slipping, which is not a good thing. You don't want this. So be very gentle here. Just a very light coat, and it's all good. And also put a little bit of grease here, very gentle on the grease, here and here. Just make sure you're gonna spread it really good. For the fork, it's not big deal if you put a little bit more, but for the guiding tube, very gentle. And for the splines here. And then we need to put fork on. And maybe a little bit here on the release bearing, not too much. Maybe this is too much. Let me take off a little bit. And a little bit inside. Since I was very gentle on the guiding tube, maybe I can put a little bit more here. Before I put the transmission back, I'm planning to install my short shifter. This is a genuine short shifter, and I bought it a few years back, and I think it's time to put it on since everything is out of the way now. If I remember correctly, you need to take off this and then pull on it, or maybe not. Should be. Oh, this is gonna be difficult. I also end up taking off the trim for the switches, and then I end up pulling off really hard, and finally I took it off. And then this and this, and I just have to take it off on the bottom, I guess. Finally I was able to take it off. I took it off from the bottom, and this bushing is very difficult to take off. Since this is aftermarket bushing, I remember when I installed this bushing, it was really difficult to put on, and now you see how I bended it just to take her off. Here are the both shifters side by side, and you also can see that the new shifter is slightly shorter, which maybe is a good thing. I'm not quite sure on that. We'll see when I put it on. The shifter is assembled. I end up putting a little bit of Honda grease. And now it's time to put back the transmission. And this is something which I don't look forward to, since it's kinda of a difficult task. One last check to make sure everything is good. And it's almost ready to go in. I think it's pretty good right now, just to push the transmission and it will click. The small bolts are getting torqued down 21 Newton meters. The big one is 72 Newton meters and the starter bolts are 42 Newton meters. This is a small bolt, 21 Newton meters. I suggest you first to start with the starter bolts, since if the backing plate is not aligned correctly, you will have a hard time putting the starter. And actually the starter does have a down pin. Let me just grab my camera and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. This one which is on the camera, and you can see that it's not fully flush, but this is normal since you do have the backing plate, and that's why it looks like it's not completely flush. But the first time when I torqued down the bolt for the starter, there was a huge gap between the down pin and the starter, like this big, and I still was able to torque down the bolts. That was the weird thing. I torqued down the bolts and I was thinking everything is good, but then I decided to check with my fingers and I was touching it and I felt that there is a huge gap. So I took my camera and I saw a huge gap, and for some reason, I mean not some reason, the backing plate I guess wasn't aligned correctly, and that's why I couldn't fully seat the starter. So what I did, I loosened out the bolts and then moved the transmission a little bit, and I was able to align the backing plate. The slave cylinder is getting torqued down to 22 Newton meters. The new shifter is installed and the only thing left is to pop in the rear bushing, and this is not so simple as it looks, since this is an aftermarket bushing and it's really difficult to compress. And I forgot that I have a aftermarket selector rod arm, and since I changed my shifter, I forgot that I need to grind down the bottom bushing here, since it's sticking out. This thing is from plastic and you have to shave it off. I used a razor blade to shave it off, and it took me a while because I already did put everything, and then I realized that I haven't done this. So it took me 20 minutes just to shave it off. I didn't want to take everything apart since this clip is really difficult to take off. But it's all good now, and I'm almost done to put my drive shaft back on. Good thing that I just checked my shifter. It turned out that it was flipped the other way around. I made a mark here, but I never followed it, and I just went up and tried to shift out the gears, and turned out that I flipped it the other way around. Basically it does need to be like this. You see how it's bended? I did it like this, but you're supposed to do it like this. If you flip it the other way around, your fifth gear is gonna be right over here. That's how you're gonna know. You're still gonna be able to shift, but just you won't be able to put the trim back on. It's all good. The guibo bolts are getting torqued down to 60 Newton meters. Drive shaft to the rear diff bolts are getting torque down to 85 Newton meters. The torque for the drive shaft sport bearing is 30 Newton meters. And the torque for the transmission cross member bolts is 21 Newton meters. The heat shield is installed, and I also replaced the rack and pinion boot. And the only thing which I can't figure out is from where exactly the leak is coming from. I think it's somewhere from the top. I still need to wipe down here a little bit more, but I think it's coming from the reservoir, but not quite sure. I have to wait and see from where it's gonna start leaking first. Alright, the exhaust system is back on, and I also end up readjusting the fitment of my muffler, since previously the fitment was pretty crooked, but now you can see there's a finger gap here and a little bit more of a finger gap on this side, so it still need to go a little bit this way. And the exhaust pipes are sticking out a little bit more on this side. It's not visible, but still need to be fixed. But how I got to this fitment is simply with taking off one of the exhaust hangers. There's supposed to be two here, so I took off this one, and then I added a washer here, and you can see that I can slightly move. I don't know if you can see, but I can move for this direction, but I have to have a solid hanger here. Basically what I need to do is maybe weld something here and move for this way, and then drill a hole, put the new hanger. I mean, it's too much work, I don't want to do it. And like this is gonna be fine for now. And this muffler actually is not cheap. $2,000 for this piece of shit, and the fitment is not right. Now the last thing which I need to do is replace the transmission fluid, since you can see that I'm kinda low on transmission oil. And that's because when I was cleaning the transmission, a lot of oil was dripping off from the breather on the top. I'm pretty close, I mean, you can see, but I think it's better to replace it anyway. I did a little bit of mess, but it's alright. I guess it did need a change. Slightly dark. This is the transmission oil which I bought. It's ATF, automatic transmission fluid, which is kind of strange, but apparently these transmissions like this kind of transmission oil. We'll see how true is this. I also bought this pump, which you can screw it on the top of the bottle, just like this, you see, and it's gonna be really simple fill up, and keep filling until it starts dripping. It's not the fastest way, but it will do the job. It's not dripping right now. I mean, it's dripping, but it's not full yet. It took 2 bottles. Right now, if I take off the plug, you'll see that it will start dripping. That's mean it's all the way full. The torque for the plugs is 52 Newton meters. And it's all done. Not! I found out something else that I need to do. I forgot that my tires are pretty much shot. You can see this one is almost out of commission. This camera doesn't want to focus, but you can see I was thinking to do a burnout with these tires, but I have to break in the clutch, and this is gonna be another 500 miles, which I really don't wanna spend with these tires. So I'm gonna replace them right now. I bought myself a new compressor, and it's a lot quieter than the old one. Some old Husky, a little bit more powerful, but it's not good anymore. So I bought this one, and it should do the job. We'll see. Alright. The new tires which I'm putting on are Kenda 275/35, and I can say that they're a lot heavier than the Michelin one. I know this one is with a lot less tread, but that doesn't matter. Still, if this one is new, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a lot lighter. But this one is a lot cheaper. It's basically a drift tire, and I messed up while I was installing my tire. Right over here I scratched the wheel. I mean, I tried to fix it a little bit, but anyway, I made a mistake and I paid for it. At least it was me, not someone else. This time I'm not taking any chances. Let's see what's gonna happen. I made a rookie mistake the first time. I don't change tires often, so this is probably my third, fourth set of tires which I'm changing, so that's why. The both tires are mounted. The second one, it took me only maybe 5 minutes, but the first one, it was a nightmare. You see the damage? I mean, I'm gonna touch it up here pretty bad. Anyway, you cannot make omelette without breaking some eggs. And now time for the balance. This wheel took a lot of weight up front. Not too bad, because previously it was pretty much the same. And maybe if I did align this dot with a valve, it will be better. I don't know. I don't believe in this, but you know. It's perfect. I did over 120 miles with a new clutch, and the first impressions are that it's pretty much the same as the stock one. A little bit grabbier and slightly heavier. I mean, I can feel that it's slightly heavier because I did already 120 something miles city driving. We're talking about city driving because I'm breaking in the clutch, and you have to do city driving, basically engaging and disengaging the clutch. That's how you're gonna break in the clutch. And 500 miles city driving, it's a lot. The new shifter, about the new shifter, I can say it's quite nice. Not a huge difference comparing to the stock one, but still I can say that there is improvement. So now I have to keep driving until I reach 500 miles city driving, which sucks, and then I can gun it. But that's it, guys, I guess. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one. Later.